If you think the best of SpongeBob is in the past, or if you, like me, never really liked SpongeBob in the first place, then stick around and I'll give you 3 reasons why SpongeBob the Search for SquarePants, made in 2005, is actually worth your time. Welcome to the Fandom Portals, where we prove that your favorite films have something to teach you. I'm Aaron, a teacher and a film fan, and today I'm here to give you 3 reasons why SpongeBob the Search for SquarePants is actually worth your time. SpongeBob the Search for SquarePants has an amazing production team. It also has great core messages in terms of honesty and bravery, and it also has a tone that lands. So without further ado, let's jump into it. First of all, the production team. This production team is reliable across generations for storytelling. A lot of the times when you go to the movies and you're seeing a kids movie, it doesn't really land for adults. However, this movie really does understand how to entertain kids without losing the adults. It balances that sincerity, absurdity, and it's got that sharp comedy all in the same breath. And part of the reason for that is because of its writers. The main writers for the SpongeBob the Search for SquarePants movie is Pam Brady and Matt Lieberman. Now, you might know Pam Brady because she wrote Hot Rod, Team America World Police, and she also wrote the South Park movie. And most recently, having made a turn into the children's movie genre, she did the most recent Smurfs movie as well. And she co-wrote this with Matt Lieberman, who wrote Free Guy, who stars Ryan Reynolds, and also did the Christmas Chronicles. He's no stranger to animation either because he did the most recent Scooby-Doo movie titled Scoob, and he did The Addams Family from 2019. All of these thrive because the jokes in them work on multiple levels in terms of their age bracket. And when I watched this movie, that was no lie. There was many a time where I was laughing, my son was laughing. It was definitely a feast for both of us. So additionally, in terms of that, this movie is directed by Derek Dryman, who's a longtime SpongeBob creative force. He was behind 290 episodes of SpongeBob, so he definitely understands this show and the emotional rhythm and the comedic timing of this franchise, as well as all the characters within it. He's definitely a well-known person in the Nickelodeon space. He, before this, was a writer on CatDog, and he also did a couple of episodes of Rocko's Modern Life as well. So he's very well versed. This is one of his first directorial debuts. I think he's done an episode or a movie of the Hotel Transylvania series prior to this, but this is his first full-length feature directorial movie that he's done, but he has always been connected to SpongeBob in one way or another. Now, most excitingly for me was when I was going to take my son to this movie was looking at the cast. Now, obviously, there's the returning cast of Tom Kenny, who does the voice of SpongeBob, and also Clancy Brown, who is a heavyweight in the voiceover space. He's a veteran. He does Mr. Krabs like no other, and there's that film familiarity for him. But also, this movie here, SpongeBob the Search for SquarePants, features heavily the character of the Flying Dutchman. The Flying Dutchman is voiced by none other than the legend Mark Hamill, and you can tell that his gravitas on the screen really brings to life this villain in a truly comedic, yet also scary and sinister kind of way. And he walks that line of slapstick and just villainy really, really well. So he has definitely got the voice for it. And also, there was a surprise feature in this one with Regina Hall, who voices One-Eyed Barb, who is Mark Hamill, the Flying Dutchman's little sidekick, who also gave the film an extra piece of texture. And having these two actors being as big as they are in the voice acting space actually added a bit of credibility to this feature for the older viewers, especially for me. Like if Mark Hamill's going to be in it, you know, at least it's going to be something that's of a production quality where he's going to sign his name to it. So obviously Mark Hamill has done voices in the Batman the Animated Series like the Joker before, and he's also done video games, but now he's lended his voice to the Flying Dutchman. Also, great character, amazing to watch, and he sort of is that antagonist character in this, leading SpongeBob through his adventure for nefarious means. Now, this is not a kids' movie made accidentally. It's definitely accessible to those that go to see it with their children. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the people making this are very well experienced, and they also are very well versed in the characters that they are creating. Reason number 2, the core message. Now, this is bread and butter for the Fandom Portals podcast. If you like movies that are taken seriously, even ones as childish seeming as SpongeBob the Search for SquarePants, then definitely check the links below for our podcast. We always come up with the most valuable takeaway on the Fandom Portals podcast, and in this one, we found that the film reframed courage not as toughness or bravado, but as a willingness to admit fear and still move forward anyway. I found that it also addressed healthy expressions of masculinity as SpongeBob discovers what he's trying to be now that he's more than 36 clams tall, or in this instance, he's become a man or an adult, and he's able to now ride the big roller coaster, and he's wondering how he's best going to express himself. So he leans on role models like Mr. Krabs, who does have a usual position in terms of masculinity. He does assign himself to that bravado or loudness, emotionally closed off. However, SpongeBob does soften him through the series and definitely in these movies as well. So at its heart, the movie pushes against the idea that bravery is loud and aggressive or emotional or closed off. And SpongeBob's arc repeatedly shows that pretending not to be scared really never works. He faces his fears with honesty, and he also faces them by staying open. He chooses kindness often and humor, and he also chooses friendship in order to help him face these different kinds of adversities that he goes through in the underworld to try and become a swashbuckler so he can then be brave like Mr. Krabs was. Mr. Krabs has this certificate of authenticity showing that he is definitely a swashbuckler, and that is the way that SpongeBob is going to show that he's a big guy now. The message quietly challenges these traditional narratives of toughness. It's often aimed at young audiences, which was good to see because through it, instead of rewarding this domination or suppression of feelings, the film actually rewards honesty, vulnerability, and connection through the character of SpongeBob. And SpongeBob changes everybody that he interacts with, especially Mr. Krabs. So Mr. Krabs looks at the innocence of SpongeBob and sees a lost version of himself. He definitely falls into the traps of falling into that bravado, posturing his toughness, as opposed to SpongeBob, who goes through life's dangers, blowing bubbles and seeing things humorously and laughing and being genuinely himself. So SpongeBob verbally acknowledges his fear also as he's stepping into the danger. He'll never mask it, and he does joke within the space, but he'll never say that he's not scared if he is actually scared. And that is really healthy for young audiences to see. And it's a quiet nod to adults as well to sort of enhance that behavior in their kids. But best thing about SpongeBob, especially in this movie, is that he always apologizes for his mistakes. Throughout the course of this movie, he does make a mistake or two, and you can see him apologize to his friends. So moments where characters posture as tough, this happens pretty often in the movie. You can see them as swashbuckling heroes with open chests, massive muscles, hair blowing in the wind, big mustaches, giant swords, and they're all talking about their past as amazing swashbuckling adventurers. Now, this happens with Mr. Krabs, but it also happens with the Flying Dutchman because he was on a path to present himself in that way. And as a result of that, Krabs was just as innocent and unsure as SpongeBob during his past, but postures as this bravado. And the Dutchman is this high sea adventurer who truly actually misses human connection or any kind of connection and delights in the normal human existence and really craves getting that back. So they're all trapped in this space of hierarchy, in this space of bravado, in this space of posturing, toughness for who they really want to be. And the Dutchman is actually using SpongeBob's innocence as a way to find that again for himself. So instead of him recognizing the traits that he needs to do to change, he will try and use SpongeBob, who exhibits that perfectly. And it's said at the start of the movie, he needs a pure soul to break the curse of the Flying Dutchman. So he finds SpongeBob, and rightly so. So the movie doesn't say one form of masculinity is right and the other is wrong, by the way. So if you are a strong person or if you are a person who is loud and boisterous, that is all an okay way to represent yourself. But it also reframes what the hierarchy should look like. So SpongeBob's courage looks weaker, but it actually proves to be more resilient in the end. And as a big guy, as it's called in the movie, toughness sometimes works, but oftentimes when uncertainty appears, SpongeBob relies on the things that he knows the best to get him through a difficult situation. All that masked as well in a space where SpongeBob isn't sure of himself or isn't sure that his way of living is correct, which I think is relatable for a lot of people. But I think some of the reasons why this lands for kids and adults is because kids see permission to be brave without having to act hard. And adults can see a quiet critique of like an outdated narrative of toughness. Parents also hear a healthier definition of what that might look like. So I think the true message is that courage is not about size or volume or dominance. It's about alignment, but also knowing why you act matters more than how you appear while you're acting. The third reason as to why you should see SpongeBob the Search for SquarePants is the tone and the fun factor. SpongeBob is known for being silly, quotable, and warm. And even with underworld imagery and emotional stakes involving people's soul, the film never forgets that it's meant to be fun, fast, and basically rewatchable. The scary scenes are really offset by comedy, and the characters of SpongeBob and Patrick facing that adversity together as friends and using their genuine strengths of fun, frivolity, and bubble blowing to get through those obstacles where most expect them to do so using toughness or panache or moxie or daring or outward bravado and strength. So I really think this movie walks a smart tonal line where visually the underworld elements introduce darker textures and mythic stakes, but they are constantly undercut with that absurdity, the visual gags, and the rapid fire one-liners, which genuinely made me laugh. And also, I was a bit worried seeing that this movie was set mostly in the underworld, taking my young son to it. But because of those elements, he actually navigated it quite well, because SpongeBob is always a character who laughs and faces that fear with a genuine warmness. So that was really encouraging to see as well. So it keeps those younger viewers engaged, but it also gives adults something playful to look at rather than being exhausted by the over-the-top nature of some movies that go in that direction. The humor also doesn't undermine the message, which is definitely a tough thing to do. And I think it instead makes the message easier to absorb. So laughter disarms the resistance, which allows sincerity to land without feeling forced in a lot of situations in the movie as well. So this is why I think SpongeBob has endured for so long, because it understands that joy and meaning are not opposites. It does them both at the same time. And this movie, SpongeBob, The Search for SquarePants, is no different. So most notably, I think the background gag jokes that land mid-dialogue really reward attentiveness for the adult viewers. And obviously the physical comedy and the slapstick nature obviously escalate into chaos a lot of the times, which helps the younger viewers stay involved, but it also often resolves in emotional clarity, and it also resolves cleanly. So that's really good for younger viewers too. So those are my three top reasons as to why to see SpongeBob The Search for SquarePants. That was the production team, the core messages, and also the tone and the fun factor. Now, here at the Fandom Portals podcast, we know that stories can do two things. They can entertain you or they can teach you a lesson. And we know that the good ones do both. SpongeBob The Search for SquarePants entertains with solid fun and cast and crew expertise, and it teaches a lesson about healthy expressions of courage. So to me, SpongeBob The Search for SquarePants is definitely worth your time. If you got something out of this, make sure you share it with a friend. Thank you very much for tuning in. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep loving fandoms.